We're seeing a resurgence in appreciation for Alexander Hamilton, and I'm grateful for Lin-Manuel Miranda for that, and Broadway. And it's a wonderful show. I took my daughter to it when she was 10. There's a great song of King George when the colonists declare independence of "You'll Be Back."
Masterfully played by Jonathan Groff. Yeah, that's a great song.
Spectacular. Yeah. And by the way, as the song says, we'll send our armies, and they sent their armies to conquer, murder the rebels. And so when you signed, John Hancock famously signed his name so big that King George could read without his spectacles. They were signing their death warrants, and they knew it.
Right.
And those death warrants were met with ships carrying soldiers that came to defeat the colonists. And the Revolutionary War, it remains one of the great miracles of history that a ragtag bunch of colonists, and most of whom were not professional soldiers, right, many of whom were farmers, many of whom were preachers. They were ordinary citizens. Many of them lacked basic clothing, lacked shoes, were fighting in hard terrain. And most of the American Revolution, we lost battle after battle after battle, and yet somehow managed to keep going and then stun the world with victory. And look, there is, one can make an appeal to natural rights, one can make an appeal to divine providence, but for most of the history of the world, it has taken force to overthrow the yoke of tyranny. Not always, but it did certainly in the founding of America, and that force set us on the journey that we're still on today.
We've completely forgotten, I think, the stakes of this, the way that you are describing it now, that it takes blood and treasure. And in addition to kind of pristine theological, philosophical, political ideas, it takes a commitment on the part of, energized human beings.
It's worth anyone watching Google what happened to the signers of the Declaration of Independence. And you can find many places on the internet just a listing of how many of them lost their lives, how many of them lost their children, how many of them lost their homes, had their homes burned to the ground. So some of the stories are truly tragic of many children, all of whom were killed. I mean, signing the Declaration was extraordinarily risky and remains fraught with consequence, among the most consequential acts in the history of the world.